Hello, and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast with two people who struggle to miss open nets and constantly forget where the big boosts are. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle.
And I'm your other host, Ace.
Sorry, somebody said that one today. I feel like I constantly miss the big boost pads. I feel like they move around. Like, they subtly move them every time. And I couldn't agree more.
Like, I don't seem to have a problem catching my big boosts. My problem is not going for big boost. But I'm in a, I'm basically a boosted plat, so my gameplay is how fast can I get to the boost.
It do be like that sometimes.
I mean, I have to be. That's the brand, right? Boost over ball, all the time.
Oh, yeah. We had a little bit of a different weekend this weekend. We had 4 regions that went today for their Fall Invitational as opposed to 3. South America, Middle East, North Africa, and Asia Pacific. And we will talk about those later. But today we are here to focus on the NA Fall Invitational, where the other 4 teams were able to punch their tickets to the Fall Major in Rotterdam.
Very exciting. I know that we've talked about it quite a bit over the past couple episodes, where which NA team was going to go, because there's only the 5 slots, and there are more than that many just really well-known teams, really good teams. And do you want to start us off? Just list who made it, or how do you want to run this today?
So I'm gonna let's go through how the event went, and then we'll recap the other regions before jumping into who qualified and the seeding for that, and then we can look ahead to see what we think about EU and Oceania, which are the last 2 regions that need to compete to solidify their spots.
Sounds wonderful. Well, let's start off with the Swiss stage. What stood out to you?
Team Axel, a team that has been not even in every regional event. They've only made 1 regional event so far, and they were one of the teams that were knocked out with 3 losses. They're able to take NRG to Game 5. They're able to sweep Dignitas. They beat 26 Rising, and they sweep Optic. And the sweep against Optic was ultimately what knocked them. Was one of the matches that put them in the relegation zone of not making playoffs.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because Optic again seems to be struggling to be consistent. Yeah, you can see here again they didn't make playoffs, and they just got clapped by version 1, and by Axel, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I do know, I saw on Twitter that Magic Bear and AJ were both battling some pretty bad illness. I know Magic Bear was tweeting about having like 102 fever and AJ 103, which is not ideal at all. I mean, Arsenal kind of dealt with something a little bit similar to that at the World Championships, and it really affected them. But I can't even imagine how hard that would have been to compete like that. So, kudos to those 2 for being able to step up and try and just get the job done despite not feeling that good.
Absolutely. As we both know, Rocket League is a very, very mental heavy game. So I can't, again, like you were saying, I cannot imagine playing while sick. I can't get out of my bed if I have a cold. So, but another thing that stands out to me for Swiss is, Space Station Gaming is following their normal pattern of just being absolutely stellar early on in these events. They just go 3-0 and go straight into the playoffs. G2 also was the other 3-0 this time around. And then you had Gen G right behind them, only losing to G2. Anyone else here stand out to you in the Swiss?
Um, Pittsburgh Knights or Knights kind of stands out a little bit just because they're another new team we see making the playoffs. Version 1, I know, only needed 2 series wins to clinch their spot at the major. So I think that maybe played a little bit into factor on why they went to round 5. But I think that it's the bigger story that we're not seeing NRG, Optic, or Furia making the playoffs. I think all 3 of those teams kind of thought that they would have been in that position.
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me last week uh, who the top 3, 4, 5 teams were, I think we even did talk about that. Furia would have been up there for me. Um, NRG has been showing that they are fairly inconsistent this season. Uh, I mean, last week at the or not last week, I guess, at the last event at the Cup, they made it to the playoffs and they were looking really, really good after the previous events. They were not, and it looks like again they didn't look that great. They didn't even make playoffs. So I hope that specifically RG takes this time between this event and what would be the next for them? Is it winter? Is it
Yeah,
winter?
the
Yeah.
Winter Open.
So they got some time to work on themselves, and it'll be really exciting to see what they can do. But they're not impressing me very much this season.
Yeah, I mean, certainly their round 5 series, Furia played Complexity, 2 former SAM teams. That went to game 5. That was an excellent series, including CRR with a 0-second goal line save to send it to overtime in game 7. And if you're gonna watch, just one series from Swiss, I think that's probably got to be one of the ones that you pick.
Yeah, any game that goes to 0 second goals and relies on that is a game to watch. That reminds me, I did watch one. I don't forget which series it was now, but it had one version 1 series I saw that I was watching, and same thing. It went really late, and version 1, like I don't know, these pros, the ability they have to keep the ball up at 0 seconds and make a play is just insane. I'm gonna think about that game a bit. The one I would want. Oh, it was. Oh, I know which one it is. I'll talk about it in a moment. Carry
Okay.
on.
Well, moving on to playoffs, we kind of got a story of same stuff, different day for Space Station, right? A sweep of Knights in the
Hmm.
quarterfinals, and then for the 3rd straight regional event, they drop 4 games to 1 in the semifinals. Top 4 Warriors, but certainly no more than that.
Absolutely. They seem to have a really good record with anybody that is not in the top 3, but they do not stand up at all to the FaZe Clan, the Gen G, um, even even version 1. I would say they struggle with quite a bit. But you know, yeah, it's disheartening being a Space Station fan because they look like they're so good to somebody like me because I can't see the minute differences between the different pro teams on what makes one so much better than the other, right? But then you see them they just kind of like drop the ball each time they go up against some of these top 2, top 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean they beat FaZe in the Swiss in 5 games, and I don't know if it's nerves. It's going to be the first match at Championship Sunday, and they have just dropped the ball for the past 3 regional events. So they'll have to regain and you know try to do better at the major. They'd certainly hope for better for themselves at least.
I wonder if it's something to do with maybe they need to warm up better in some way or another.
It's certainly
Because,
possible.
uh, final Sunday, like this, they're starting fresh, and each time they seem to start fresh, they start off a little bit rocky. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do better. Do better, Space Station.
But on the other end of that, you have FaZe Clan cruising through Team Axel in 6 games. Although I do have to highlight Toasty from Team Axel hit probably one of the nuttiest redirects I've ever seen in RLCS. We will tweet. I'll tweet it out before this episode goes live. with some of the highlights with that highlight, but truly a great redirect. He got a touch right before he hit the ceiling and was able to put it top right corner. And his reaction was almost just as good as the goal. He was shocked that he even hit it, but FaZe Clan quickly threw Team Axel and then quickly threw Space Station 4-1 to move to the finals.
Well, and then when we're looking at the other half of the quarterfinal bracket, you got G2 and Complexity, and it looked like G2 did not struggle with Complexity at all. They kind of, it's 4-1, just standard game for them. And then the only series I ended up catching this weekend was the Gen G and version 1 series. And Gen G was looking just so phenomenal. Um, they were just, I don't know, they seem pretty dominant. Oops. I'm trying to click on your screenshot to get to the stats. That is not how that works. So from watching the game, I mean, straight if you look at just the numbers, it looked like it's pretty close. You had overtime in the first two games, and then version one took a timeout. Overtime in the third game. Um, all of these games, the entire series, were all within one game, um, or all within 1 point. So is really exciting to watch. But one of the best parts for me, I think it was game two. It may have been game three, but version one was down by three, or not by three, by two. They were down by two with like 10 seconds left, and they tied it up with a goal right off kickoff. Well, obviously two goals right off kickoff, right? But yeah, one of them was a 0 second goal that was just up for a very long time, and it was an intense and very good game to watch. Highly recommend it. If you have to watch one game from the quarterfinals, it would have been, I don't know, game two or three of that series. It was phenomenal.
Okay.
But moving on to semifinals. Sorry, I just kind of dragged on about that bit. No, so moving on to semifinals, you have Gen G absolutely just weeping G2, and again, Gen G is just looking so good. They've been very, very consistent. I think that they're probably the best team in NA, just my professional opinion, because they have made it a grand final in every event, and so this event was no different. Um, then, did you catch the grand final? You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, that just it was not close. It was a rematch of the Fall Open, which was the first regional event in NA, and Gen G just dismantled them. They really took the FaZe offense that had been kind of firing on all cylinders since the quarterfinals out of play. Apparently, Jack and crew were able to shut them down and take a big series win. And I mean, that's three grand final appearances and one grand final win out of three. That's pretty good. It's at least at worst top two. So certainly they are looking to keep this momentum going as they head off as the number one NA seed to the fall major.
It's interesting because I remember in the first event in the Open, FaZe looked so dominant, even all the way into grand finals against Gen G. They didn't look like they struggled very much at all. And it was just, I remember when that was probably the first episode of this show, wasn't it?
It
Of this
was.
podcast.
It was.
Yeah. I remember talking about how I was worried that FaZe was going to be unstoppable in the season and like it wasn't going to be a very competitive bracket. But you could see like Gen G has been putting in the work. Um, and I think that part of that is we're gonna talk about that a little bit later because as a little preview, our pro player preview, I think, right? What are we calling that thing? Help.
The pro spotlight, player spotlight,
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, our player spotlight to the little preview is going to be apparently Jack this episode. And I think that that will highlight a little bit of why or how they're able to take, you know, their team, which was you know, brand new from a completely different region, put together for just this season, and turn it into this just dominant force that they're looking like they're going to be. So excited to watch the major and see them win. That's how I'm just gonna say that right now. I'm so
Okay.
confident that they're going to win it.
Okay. Well, I mean, that kind of sums up the NA Fall Invitational. So now we can look to take it around the world to all the other regions that competed. And now it's time to check in from around the world of Rocket League.
Starting off with around the world, we have the SAM, South America region. It's pretty much the same story we've seen from the start. You had Furia down there last season, and there was kind of a battle, but Furia has left a hole, and the club is filling it. That is not. um, sorry. Uh, the club is happy to take the top spot in Sam, and they're showing, as they have been for the past couple events, that they are, yeah, they're very dominant. Yet again, taking the grand final and taking first, taking the whole event. Uh, the only other team that seems to come close when they do battle it out is either Crew or Team Secret. So I would say that the only questionable thing about Sam right now is who's second place, and that is either going to be Crew or Team Secret. You have anything you'd like to add about Sam?
I'll tease a little bit. We'll talk about it in our fall major information segment after we're done taking it around the world. But Crew and Team Secret actually played a tiebreaker series after the Fall Invitational to determine who the second seed of Sam was to go to the fall major.
Wow, I was unintentionally on point. Look at me go.
Calculated.
Yeah, yeah, 100% calculated. Yeah, I knew that. I just that was a IQ 9000 move to lead into that.
Oh yeah, nice easy teaser. But transitioning over to MENA, Team Falcons again win their event. They have a perfect Swiss stage, finishing 9-0. They only dropped 3 matches in playoffs before beating Rule 1 in the finals, 4-1. Rule 1 looked good until they ran into Falcons. But this is officially their first event as an organization, being the team run by Incivic and Sunless. So really moving forward, MENA, the Middle East North Africa region, is shaping up to kind of be a two-horse race with Rule 1 and Team Falcons fighting for that top spot. However, at all of the international major events and at the World Championships, there is only one spot for MENA teams. So it's going to be 2 teams fighting over one spot, and that should make it interesting all the way through.
Absolutely. I will say that is the MENA series, the MENA event is probably the one I watched the most, mostly because I'm very interested in seeing how Rule 1 does. So it was pretty exciting. And then finishing the around the world section with APAC, we got James Cheese. I mean, that region pretty much has one name, and it is James Cheese, and it's similar to MENA, in just that James Cheese has shown that they're incredibly dominant. Uh, you know, just looking at overall rankings, there are 2 teams that have 69 points overall, and that is the club from Sam and James Cheese from APAC. They're just absolutely dominant in their respective regions.
I don't even know if I'm gonna have to double check myself right here, but I don't even know if they've won. Hold up, 1,
Yay! It's not just me.
3, 4. They've dropped 5 matches total in RLCS 2022-2023. Total.
Not even a series, just games in a series.
Yeah, and it's never been more than 1 game in a single series.
Wow. Oh
And
yeah, because let's see. First event they went through and they lost. They had one game in the Swiss. The second event was it 2 games in the Swiss
mm-hmm,
and one in the playoffs. So the rest of the region's catching up. They just need to hurry up a lot faster. And then yeah, in this last one, yeah, they only lost two. They only dropped 2 games in the playoffs. Yeah, it's James Cheese's region.
yeah, and they look to only get stronger and solidify their position as they pick up Coach LBP, who's formerly the coach of Renegades and OCE. But when CJ retired, that team kind of folded. So, like you said, it's really their region to lose,
Yep,
and I don't expect to see anybody other than James Cheese on top.
definitely not.
But now we can transition into our fall major section here. These are the teams that have confirmed their place in the fall major and will be heading to Rotterdam in a few short weeks. From NA, Gen G, they've looked good all the way through, as you mentioned. 3 grand finals, one regional championship. They take home your number 1 seed, followed closely behind by FaZe Clan with 2 grand finals appearances and 1 regional win. Third, you got V1, who has a regional victory and didn't look as hot in the Fall Invitational as some of the other teams, but again, doesn't really matter. They punched their ticket. In third place, or in fourth place, I'm sorry, we got Space Station, the consistent top 4 performers, nothing more, nothing less. And rounding out our NA teams, we have G2 with a great performance from them, winning the Swiss stage, making it to the semifinals, and they're able to punch their ticket into the major.
Yeah, and one thing I'm looking at here that is pretty interesting to note is the gap in points between G2 and the next nearest NRG is pretty significant. It's an entire event win. So those top 5 are the top 5 fairly solidly at this time. The next seed, or I guess the 6th seed in North America, the next runner up would have been NRG, and they're sitting at 20 points. G2's 35.
Yeah. Moving on to South America, the club have it running away. That's not close. They've won all 3 regional events. They're in. However, Crew and Team Secret were tied on points at the conclusion of the Fall Invitational and had to have a tiebreaker series. And in that tiebreaker series, Team Secret was able to beat Crew 4-1 to secure their place and advance to the Fall Major. The tiebreaker is something that we normally don't see very often because it's kind of rare that teams have an exact tie, like even on game differential and all kinds of stuff like that. But I mean, it was exciting to watch. I got to see that series. I was very confused as to why they were playing it at first, but I mean, it's a very cool thing that they, for the fans at least, that they got to see a bonus series, if you will.
Absolutely. And then for MENA, it's no surprise, Falcons. They've been absolutely dominant. I hope to see that change. I want to see Rule 1 because I love their colors. But yeah, Falcons run MENA right now. And then APAC, we've already talked about James Cheese. That might as well just rename that to the James Cheese region at this point, until further notice. Honestly.
Yeah. And then we have, like we mentioned earlier, we have 2 more regions left to play. EU and OCE. And in the EU region, Carmine Corp have punched their ticket. Quadrant in 2nd, Oxygen in 3rd, Moist 4th, BDS 5th, Tundra tied for 5th, Aogori 7, and G1 tied for 7 with Team Liquid. Evil Geniuses and Vitality are right behind them. So there's certainly a lot to play for, just like there was in NA. It certainly would seem to me that Quadrant, Oxygen, and Moist have kind of run away with it a little bit. I would be surprised if those 3 did not make it. But that 5th spot where BDS and Tundra are currently sitting, I think will be very close. They're tied on points, only 3 points better than Team Liquid, Evil Geniuses, Vitality. G1 2 points away, Agori 2 points away. There's certainly a lot to play for, and BDS has to have a good regional, or they will not even make the fall major.
Yeah, well, and EU they also have 5 slots, right? So
Yes.
so yeah, that fifth slot is going to be spicy. There are 5 teams, six, seven, I would say 8 teams within 5 points of each other fighting for that spot.
Yeah. There,
Oh man,
there's certainly everything to play for, and if you had told me at the beginning of the year that Team BDS would not like, there's a potential that they wouldn't even make the fall major, I'd have said you're crazy. I mean, they just look so dominant at the World Championships. I'm very surprised to see them kind of on the outside looking in. I mean, they currently hold the tiebreaker right now. They hold the spot for the major if it ended today, but by no means are they safe.
no, no, no means at all, and they really need to start playing like they were last season, honestly, because they were dominant. They're our world champions for last season, so it'd be honestly pretty indicative of what it's like to play Rocket League, to be world champions one week and then the next week not even make a major.
Yeah, no kidding.
So happens to the pros too, I guess.
Yeah. And then our last region, OCE, which will send 2 teams to the fall major. We have Pioneers in first place, Team Power in second, and you got 3 teams tied for third in Ground Zero Gaming, Placeholders, and the Lake Show. And I would say that Pioneers should make it, and quite frankly, Power should make it, but they're only 4 points clear of those 3 teams that are chasing them in third, and it's not locked up by any means. So Pioneers and Power, if they want to make it, they're both going to have a good showing. They're both going to have to make playoffs, I think, to guarantee themselves a spot at the major.
Absolutely. One thing I'm seeing though that's interesting, why are there so much, why are there so fewer points in Oceania? You
Um,
see,
I think it's been spread out more because
oh, I guess so.
like, you know, Pioneers won one, Power won one, and everyone else has kind of done a good job of making grand finals. So Pioneers are the only team really consistently that's made the grand finals, but other than that, it's been a different team every time. So I think it's just they have lower points because it's been spread out more.
That makes sense. Well, and they still haven't played their third event.
Yes, this is also true.
All right, answer my own questions sometimes. And then, all right, well, that will wrap up our kind of a recap of our what happened in our pro play from this last event, and moving into next, we're very excited to see what happens with EU, and who ends up getting to the majors. But uh, as we introduced last episode, now we are starting to give you all a bit of a introduction and background on some of the pro players out there on the scene. So without further ado, I'm just gonna let Kyle here take it away.
Thank you. I figured again, who better to pick than someone from the event-winning team. So today we're going to look at Jack. Apparently, Jack Benton. He was born September 23rd, 2003, which makes him 19 years old. For the people doing some quick math out there, again, still pretty young. Not quite as young as Vatira, but hey, still pretty young. And apparently Jack started his Rocket League career actually as a coach for Infinity Esports in 2019 before joining Georgiajo as a player in February of 2020. From there, Jack moved to a team that some more people may be familiar with, Rix.gg, and was there for 3 months from August to November of 2020 before making a move that will make him known to people of the RLCS community and to the world as a whole, where he moved to Dignitas. He stayed at Dignitas for 2 years, from November 2020 to September 2022. They were able to find a good amount of success over there in Europe before he decided to make the region transfer with fellow EU player Nali, and they moved to Gen G Mobile 1, and they have been the model of consistency in NA, making 3 grand finals, winning 1, and they've secured themselves the number 1 seed heading into the fall major. And it's all on the back of apparently Jack and his one's ability and his mechanical prowess.
Absolutely. Man is something to behold. Very good player. Now, I think I had mentioned this before. I had kind of hinted at it earlier in our conversation. But they have been an incredibly consistent team, more so than the other teams, in their region right now. Do you think that some part of that is due to him starting off as a coach?
I think it is possible. I think definitely it's a different way of looking at the game, certainly, in my opinion. And it gives you a kind of a more broad knowledge of what you and your teammates should be doing. So it may help them with some strategy that they have or the type of team that they want to be. But it still pains me, and we're gonna hear it from some of the EU boys, but that the fact that an in quotes EU team is beating NA teams, like the NA is so bad that they came over and they just win everything.
That's all I have.
Yeah,
Sorry. Thank you. That was an excellent background on apparently Jack. Now, do you think that we can include in these segments, or when we release this, some like links to like his YouTube channel for anybody who's interested, because he does do some excellent coaching videos for people that I assume Twitch subscribers. That's what a lot of them do, but I've learned a ton just from watching apparently Jack talk about this game.
Yeah, we should start. I'll start doing this for everybody, anybody that we cover or talk about from the scene. I'll put their information in the show notes, which you can view on anywhere you get podcasts, and I'll tweet them out as well from our @BoostOverBall Twitter account.
Beautiful. Look at that. We're practically professionals. I can just feel the VIP passes dangling across my neck.
They're coming our way in the near future.
Oh heck yeah! I mean, do they dangle? I don't know.
I mean, they were on lanyards.
They look like they dangle. Anybody who listens to us, of the 37,000 people out there listening to us right now, if you have had a VIP pass, please tell me. Let us know what it feels like. Does it dangle? I've lost my train of thought. Oh man,
but
it's been a week.
It certainly has. And on that note, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in and listening to another episode of us talk about all things Rocket League. Please check us out on Twitter again. Leave us a rate on anywhere you get podcasts. It really helps us out. And moving forward, if you have any questions, feel free to comment them on Twitter so that we can answer your questions at the end of every episode. And thank you again for listening, and we will see you guys later. But remember, as always, choose Boost over Ball.
And if you lost, it's because your teammate every time, or Smurfs.
Thank you for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast.